And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk.
Are they even clapping anymore? That was the question that started whispering through the silence. The kind of silence that speaks louder than any viral clip. And here's what made it worse. This wasn't just about Charlie Kirk landing a punch. It was about what he represented. He exposed the myth. You don't need a network budget, a camera crew, or a panel of yes men to shake the room. All it took was one guy in one chair, with one mic, and a very inconvenient truth. And Whoopi, she didn't fall apart in some dramatic, camera-ready breakdown. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cinematic. It was colder than that. She kept showing up, kept talking, but the electricity was gone. It wasn't a collapse.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis.
There was a weird energy hanging over the show, something you couldn't quite name, but definitely couldn't ignore. Whoopi was still sitting in her usual seat, still tossing out those tried and tested one-liners, still leading with that unmistakable tone of "I've got this," but something wasn't clicking. It was all a little too polished, a little too forced. Her words still came out smooth, but her delivery felt like a cover band trying to imitate a hit they used to sing with fire. The sparkle, that electric confidence that once made every opinion.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me. And it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. So, the state...
7. She didn't just lose an argument. She got taken apart piece by piece. Digitally dismantled by a guy who never even stepped foot inside the studio. No makeup chair, no green room, no security pass, and yet the impact hit harder than any in-person debate could have. One podcast clip, a few facts, and the illusion cracked. The once impenetrable set of The View, which for years...
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk.
As the video spread, people at home started asking the kind of uncomfortable, unfiltered questions that make television execs break into cold sweats. Questions like, wait, did she just say that with zero evidence? Or why is the audience clapping for that? The illusion, that polished bubble of untouchable daytime authority.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
One by one, he dismantled her entire argument like it was a faulty IKEA shelf. And just like that, the internet went into overdrive. Charlie didn't merely expose a slip-up. He created a blueprint of contradictions so clear, even casual viewers could follow along. Pegs, screws, smug expressions, all labeled, all cross-referenced. And that confident smirk on his face? It was like he knew the takedown would hit 1 million views before Whoopi even had time to clap back. The facts didn't, just undermine her talking points. They moonwalked across her argument while lip-syncing to a viral sound. In a matter of hours, the clips were everywhere. Instagram flooded with reels, YouTube pulsing with shorts, and Twitter collapsing under the weight of endless threads breaking down Whoopi's facial expressions frame by frame. Suddenly, people...
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
And he didn't hesitate. Charlie moved in with the kind of precision you'd expect from a brain surgeon with a grudge. No yelling, no flailing, just calm. Deliberate deconstruction of the nonsense she had just broadcast to millions. While others raised their voices, hoping volume will drown out weak points, Charlie raised his standards, presenting fact after fact, calmly gutting...
President, you let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazi Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
Well, fast forward to this morning, the host apologized before quickly cutting to commercial.
Charlie didn't step foot on the set, not even close. He recorded everything from his podcast studio, relaxed as ever, sipping his coffee while watching the digital wildfire catch. Whoopi, sticking to her usual formula, dropped one of those smug one-liners that usually earns a chuckle and a nod from the co-host Echo Squad. The audience laughed. The panel grinned. But Charlie caught...
John, something that struck me in the cease and desist letter was the sentence that specifically The View host insidiously and cavalierly stated that TPUSA let the neo into its event, metaphorically embraced them, and it went on. Insidiously and cavalierly. And I felt that perfectly summed up exactly what those women were saying, which is something so deeply toxic and also so lightly thrown out there.
And so false. I mean, these were protesters outside of the event, right? They couldn't get in. These were not neo-Nazis inside of Turning Point USA. They were protesting outside on public grounds, and Turning Point tried to remove them.
They've officially hit rock bottom trying to come up with fresh jabs at me. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg just gave America a front row seat to what can only be described as a full-blown meltdown of apocalyptic proportions. And no, don't blame hormones. This wasn't a hot flash. It was Charlie Kirk waltzing into The View like he'd taken a wrong exit off the freeway and accidentally walked in.
Do you think if a liberal came to speak at University of Kentucky, they'd give an open mic like I just did to a conservative and had a discussion like this?
I certainly hope they would.
No, they wouldn't. Because speech is not a left-wing value. That is why they have to deploy shock troops called Antifa to go after everywhere I go. When I go to University of California, Davis next week, there has to be 120 police officers because of the threats, the violent threats of liberals that want me dead, that want to disrupt our event.
For years now, she's existed inside a cozy little ideological bubble. A daytime utopia where jokes pass for journalism, where half-baked claims go unchallenged, and where the audience claps on cue like wind-up toys. It's an echo chamber with studio lights. And to be fair, it worked, until Charlie Kirk decided he wasn't going to let these on-air TED Talks pass for intelligent debate anymore. Charlie, known more for his rapid-fire podcasting than for storming mainstream TV palaces, didn't just push back, he launched a full-on intellectual siege. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't planned. It was just him, his mic, and a metaphorical sword made of research and receipts. And let's be clear, he didn't even sit across from Whoopi in person. He never needed to. His words traveled farther than any studio guest ever could.